For many of us, these hideous gray booklets started arriving in our mailboxes within the last few days. And for many of us, the tax forms have been a stimulus for saving money. But financial planner Paul Roy says that's a bad thing to do.
This idea of waiting till the end of the year and reacting to taxes is kind of a dysfunctional way of dealing with them. The way to do it is to start planning for next year now at the end of this year.
But taxes aside, Roy says now is a great time to start saving money and planning your financial future, because you never know when an emergency could come up.
Yeah, well, in the financial planning business, this is an excellent opportunity for us to tell people that they need to build up and maintain a cash reserve. That is about 3 to 6 times their monthly expenses. They should have a goal to build that up and maintain.
If you have short-term goals, Roy says start a money market fund with high liquidity. For more long-term goals, try a well-managed equity mutual fund. Roy also says be positive because the economy's looking up and the new administration's looking good. In Duluth, Heather Filkins, News 6.
Well, I was stunned. I had no idea this was going to go on. I think it's bogus. I think if Melody Orphy had testified against her husband, this would have never happened. It's just sour grapes by the police and the county attorney's office.
Team, get up. Tuck, get up. Good boy. About every breed of horse that drives or pulls just about is represented here today. It takes a lot of time to get horses to the point where they're able to hook onto a piece of machinery or a sleigh or a wagon or whatever and drive off with it. Well, my wife and I have had horses for 20 years. I started logging with horses about 20 years ago. It's about the time everybody else quit. It's our life. Horses are our life. Some people like snowmobiles, some people like skiing, and our family likes horses. A lot of them, there are a lot of horses and a machine. You don't just jump off, turn the switch, and walk away from it. I can't imagine getting up in the morning and not seeing horses standing by my house. Like getting up and not having your family there.
At this point in the race, all lead musher Greg Swingley would like to do is slip into a nice hot jacuzzi. Instead, he'll have to settle for a fresh pair of warm socks.
I've got enough left in there.
After a brief nap at the Skyport checkpoint this morning, it's time to head out. But halfway through the race, the dogs are more than a little reluctant to move. Swingley's handlers, however, aren't worried. Not when the 1992 Bear Race champion appears to be well on his way to a repeat performance.
At this point, what are the chances of anybody catching Greg?
Well, I'm a little biased, obviously, but I'd say real slim. And this weather isn't going to help anybody, so I don't think anybody's going to catch him.
High winds and blowing snow could slow things down a bit.
I don't think there'll be a record. I don't care if I break the record or not, but when we do our strategy for the next race, we always try and improve. And so we had a plan that we thought could break the record, but would have to been under similar conditions to last year.
At this point in the race, Swingley is more concerned about his dogs than competitors. He'll leave today with only 12, down from 16.
I'd like to get all 12 I have here to the finish line, but chances are I'll probably drop 1 or 2 before I get there. But I'll try my best to get them there.
But there's still a lot of ground to cover, so without further delay, Swingley shoved off to continue his long, lonely trek towards that finish line. Near Grand Marais, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
I remember her last year.
Well, it's slow now because of the fresh snow. Last year we had some heavy winds, and that slowed a few teams down, but we didn't get the snowfall like we are this year.
You know, it is a strategy now. Assume if you go with everybody having the same caliber of dogs and everybody's dogs are equal right now, then it comes down to who takes the most rest between now and the finish line.
I guess, you know, when you start to smile and you can't help yourself, that tells you, you know, something how you're feeling, and that's the way I felt. This one's a little bit better than last year, I think. I don't know why, but it just feels better to get across the finish line. And
Your plans now? What are you going to do in the next few hours?
well, I'm probably going to search for my brother and see if I can lend him a hand at the checkpoints.
How'd you feel about the?
That you gotta be kind of messed up, you know, at noble and
Here today.
What we tried to emphasize today was that as difficult as it is to imagine, there are people who do murder their own children, and it's a difficult interview, it's a difficult investigation, but it has to be addressed.
It'll keep any effluent or sewage or whatever it would be out of Otter Creek. And I think personally I'd rather see a sewer line and support a sewer line than have the effluent going into a creek.
The pediatric and rehab cases.
Good morning. We think we offer part of the solution to controlling the escalating medical costs. It has been proven that in many instances, care can be provided at home without extended hospital stays. And everyone, I believe, is aware that you feel better when you can go home. And it's a mental state that aids in the physical improvement that we're after, as well as impacting the cost.
And then, wouldn't it be the 9-inch because we stick them in the 10-inch regular envelopes? And then okay, we'll change that. And then so you can get the billing business with. I'll just change this.
In Sheriff Marv Arneson's line of work, you don't always make friends, but he doesn't think even his worst enemy would want to shoot him. But apparently, someone is taking shots at authorities in Superior. This bullet hole was discovered in Arneson's office window last week, believed to have been caused by a high-velocity pellet gun, the latest act of vandalism against the department.
I had no idea it was there.
A few windows down, a similar hole was found under Superior Mayor Herb Bergson's office. Arneson, however, isn't sure if the two are related and says he doesn't feel he's being targeted personally.
I guess right at this point myself, I'm considering just it's somebody driving by and, well, let's face it, this building is all window. And it certainly, they couldn't miss one if they shot at the building.
But someone's also taking shots at one of Arneson's deputies, and it doesn't appear random. The deputy's squad car windshield has been shattered twice by gunfire while parked outside his home. Authorities have a few suspects in mind, but at this point, little evidence to go on. And while Sheriff Marv Arneson believes the incidents are unrelated, he's concerned that if whomever is responsible isn't caught, the acts of vandalism could become acts of violence.
Anybody that plays around with any type of weapon, especially guns, certainly there's always that possibility that they'll get more aggressive.
In the meantime, Arneson says he plans to take extra safety precautions for his department and especially for the deputy whose windshield was shot out until the vandals are caught. In Superior, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
The first to hit the streets were those carrying pro-life signs. About 50 men, women, and children marched quietly in front of the Women's Health Center, the only facility in the Northland to offer abortions. As they silently walked with their signs, a woman sang quiet songs about the gifts of life. But things weren't so quiet over at the Duluth Civic Center, where pro-choice forces had gathered to plan strategy for a joyful march through town to the Women's Health Center. They loudly chanted slogans celebrating a woman's right to choose.
Choice! Choice! Let's America vote! Freedom! Freedom!
The marchers were warned to avoid confrontations with pro-life people when they met at the Women's Health Center.
We are not going to react. We are not going to get into any dialogue with these people. This is our day and this is our agenda.
Likewise, the pro-life supporters had been warned by their leaders not to get involved with pro-choice marchers, but to pray and be reflective on their feelings.
The thought of a child being a choice after it is conceived, I don't understand how we as a human race can say that we can choose to give a human being a life or not.
As the two sides came together, it was an interesting clash of strong feelings, one shown in chants, the other in silence. The majority of the marchers were women, but some men did carry signs. Pro-choice marcher Gary Harvell offered his feelings on that.
Well, I think it's important for men to show their support for women and their right to choose, and I would have felt badly if I'd seen no men here today.
Predictably, pro-choice marchers expressed optimism about the new president, while pro-life supporters said the outlook is grim. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Snow is great. This nice warm temperature and the fresh white snow has made it just terrific.
Many of us have a hard time comprehending the complex language of computers, but these students at UMD know it better than most. In fact, after finding that many of their classroom textbooks were lacking, they decided to write one of their own.
We know better sometimes even versus the teachers what we want to learn.
Students are members of the Management Information System Club. They spent 10 weeks gathering information and ideas from over 100 faculty members. Now in the final editing stages, once published, the textbook will be used by incoming freshmen.
Every chapter or every section must start on an odd page.
The students got the idea from Professor Stephen Haig, who's authored several books on the subject. He says this is the first time ever a major publishing firm has contracted a student organization to write their own textbook. He believes the project will serve as a role model to other colleges.
Well, specifically, the students who will be participating as authors, number one, are learning the ropes of publishing, and I think that's very significant in itself. And also, I think they're learning to appreciate the quality of educational material that's produced. And they're beginning to understand how really difficult it is to do that.
Students say although a lot of hard work, the project has been fun and will no doubt help them in their future careers.
Well, I think it's just quite an honor to be able to say that you've co-authored a book in your college career.
Books will be sold at the University Bookstore and will hit the shelves this fall. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
The Commission's recommendations propose some insurance policy reforms, such as plans. This is throwing away precious dollars that could be captured.
On some minor things, I'm sure there's room for compromise. But in terms of cost containment, if we don't have cost containment, we can't cover all people. And our objective is to cover those that fall between the cracks. Who are